You're tuned in to the Big Smoke Chronicle podcast, where we get to interview seasoned professionals in finance, fintech, and entrepreneurship. We go beyond the surface to bring you the experiences, lessons, and skills that matter most in today's world of work. So, let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the Big Smoke Chronicle podcast, where we sit down with business leaders to unpack what it looks like to thrive in your career for people like myself, Gen Z, students, young professionals. And today we are thrilled because we are joined by Laura McCracken, whose career spans to some of the biggest names in tech and finance, including Amazon, Meta, Citibank, American Express, and many, many more. Laura has spent over 2 decades working at the intersection of technology, leadership, and finance, and has worked closely with boards, CEOs, and senior leaders in helping them navigate this fast-changing industry. And so I encourage you, listen closely, because you're going to get lots of gold from this episode. So without further ado, Laura, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Abby. Nice to meet you again.
You're on call in person.
Yes,
We're here in person. Lovely, sunny Saturday morning. Here we are in Canary Wharf.
Inviting me to your pad.
Oh, it's so great to see you and thank you for being here. And we're so excited just to hear more about what you've learned. This is Sam. Sorry I didn't introduce you.
Hey, Sam.
Hello, I'm Abby's co-host and I'll be helping.
Yes. So let's start. Laura, you have had such a successful career and you're doing so much, but I would love to start with how, when you finished uni, like how did this journey into finance, leadership, how did it start? After you finished?
Well, always accidental, to be honest with you. So I grew up as a military brat.
Okay.
I'd moved around all over the US, and we ended up in Alabama. And Alabama was not really where I saw myself long term. So I wanted to escape. So after getting my degree in accounting, I graduated and I just skipped my graduation ceremony. I got in my car and I went to Los Angeles without a job.
By yourself?
By myself, without a job, without a flat,
Wow.
My mother gave me $1,000.
Big
So I had $1,000 without a job to go into LA. Oh my God. I tell you what, I got there and I started off, I just went through the yellow pages and tried to find my first job. And it was really hard, really intimidating, really scary. But I managed through networking and talking to different people. I got myself into KPMG.
Oh.
After networking, that is
networking.
impressive.
And I'll tell you, I majored in accounting. The thing about living in Alabama is KPMG wanted to give me a job there, but they said they would only do it in Alabama, Georgia, or Florida, because they just didn't think a girl from Alabama could cut it in LA.
Yes.
And I was like, no, I want to go to LA. So if you won't take me there, I'll just go myself. So that was kind of the way that my career got started. And that's kind of followed me through the rest of my life, because after LA, I wanted New York. I went to New York. And then after New York, I'm like, okay, I've done both coasts, LA and New York. Now I want something more. Where else can I go? London. And after I spent like 5 years in London, I thought, okay, where else can I go? Singapore. And then
As you do.
But yeah, so I think my, the little thread is my parents probably put this back in my head when I was the military brat, where I moved around a bit. Then it's kind of continued as an adult, and I just see the world as kind of my playground, and I wanted to get the most out of it just by traveling. And I took global jobs. So I started off in accounting. And again, I say that was an accident because it was just an entry point. But then when I started, I had to explore and figure out what I was good at. And the best way to do that, from my opinion, is joining a big company. I joined American Express after doing, accounting, investment banking. I finally found my home at Amex. And that gave me the opportunity to explore different roles. Marketing, finance, business development, partnerships. And then I managed to get myself a big global job where I had 25 countries, and I just got to go around the world negotiating airline deals with like Aeromexico, Alitalia,
So cool.
British Airways, Singapore Airlines. It was super fun.
And was the first role that you had investment banking?
The first role was KPMG auditing.
Okay,
So
auditing.
accounting.
Right.
And then after about a year, I realized, okay, I'm not an accountant. This is not me. So then I decided, okay, what else can I do? Investment banking, they make a lot of money. So I got into investment banking and I found it was full of a bunch of egos, very full of arrogance. And again, I just didn't think this was me. I guess I'm not as monetarily driven as I maybe thought I was. Cause you're in that industry and you're surrounded by people who are making $1 million bonuses. And I couldn't be bothered. I was like, this doesn't match my values. It's not who I am. So again, it was the first time I found my home was American Express because they had values,
Yes.
strong leadership culture. I found my first leaders that I really admired, respected. We had fun, work hard, play hard. I loved my colleagues. So it was like a club, where you're learning together. And I think it made all the difference for the rest of my career. Also being a big global brand, it helps you open doors if you do want to have that kind of career.
Yeah. I think that's so comforting to hear because you didn't have it all planned out. And I think when you're at university, people are coming in and saying, you should know what you got to do. Like, what are you good at? What are you bad at? And it's so hard to know when you haven't actually experienced your first proper job yet. And so I think that's really good to hear. But for someone who is listening to this, who wants to go into finance and knows that is their path and they want to go into that after uni, or maybe you're in your first job in finance now, what advice would you give that person to grow in their role?
In finance?
Yeah, in finance. Yeah.
Well, I think that first of all, you need to find a good blue chip company to start in because you want to go, the training ground really matters. And the biggest mistake I see people make is they go into a company that doesn't have the right, again, level of leadership, the right processes, the right training. So you want to find a good place that can give you good training. So for example, HSBC is quite famous for this. They have this kind of international management program. So you join. It's a great way to get trained for your first year of your career. For the first 3 years, they send you around to different parts of the world so you can learn from different functions and different geographies. And these people end up doing quite well in their career, either at a HSBC or elsewhere, because they've just got that strong foundation.
Yeah, no, that's really good to hear. What advice would you give someone who wants to start their career but they don't know what they want to go into? But let's say they're a university student. What piece of advice would you give them in discovering what they're passionate about?
Go travel for a year.
Take a gap year.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things. I mean, I do think that there is some huge value to the gap year. And also I considered going into the Peace Corps. That's something that we had in America open to us. But doing something, I'm also a big believer in national service. So doing something, if you don't know what you want to do, just do something. Either to give back, so going and doing some sort of service, doing some sort of travel so you can learn a little bit about yourself, because that year of exploration, you'll find out what you're good at. And the most important thing, the best advice I can give anyone is figure out what your strengths are and play into those things. Don't try and do something for the money or the prestige. Figure out, what am I good at? Am I good at the numbers? Do I like living in an Excel spreadsheet? Fantastic. Go into finance. Do I like people? Do I like talking to individuals? Then go into sales, go into some sort of, person-to-person career. Do I like colors and how things look? Go into marketing. Figure out what you're good at.
Yeah. And something that you're really passionate about is leadership. And I'd love to dive into that. Because we were talking on the call how leadership and culture coexist. And I would love you to define, in your opinion, what good leadership looks like.
Great. Well, I have spent a lot of time thinking about leadership. And to me, there's like a 3-part answer to this thing. First, the most important thing is figuring out who you are as a leader. So you've got to have your authentic values. So you need to sit down with yourself and think, who am I? What do I bring to the table? What do I believe in? Because people will not follow those who are not authentic and aren't grounded in their own truth, their own values. So that's first. You need to do that exploration and figure out kind of what's your vision. That's number one. Number two is emotional intelligence. Now, what is emotional intelligence? That is about, first, again, self-awareness, knowing what you're good at, your strengths, your weaknesses, and then knowing how to relate to others. So that is number two. Without emotional intelligence, you're not going to be a very good leader. And then third is judgment, the ability to see patterns, the ability to connect dots. You zoom out, you look at the bigger picture, and you see the playing field. Yep. And then you're able to, from that vantage point, some people call it the balcony view, look and see the bigger picture and make the connections and use your judgment. So those are the three things, the three ingredients you need to be a good leader. Okay. But number one, again, is authenticity. People want to believe that they know who you are before they're willing to follow you.
How have you assessed those three criteria? Is it just like you sitting down with a blank piece of paper and then just going through each of them one by one? Or do you sit with someone that you mentors you or coaches you who also knows you and might see spots that you might not see? Like, how do you practically do that?
Let me give you, I do think self-assessment or assessment tools can be helpful. When I got my MBA at London Business School, the very first course was about leadership. And the very first thing they did, we got our study group, 4 people in each study group, and our professor put us in a room. And we had to take like 3 or 4 different personality and strength assessment tools before the program. We sat in the room and we were like basically sharing our results and talking about them. So for example, there was the Myers-Briggs.
Yeah,
there was the classic, the Belbin team roles.
Yes.
Phiro B. And there might have been a couple more, but those 3 I really remember. They were really strong ones. And we sat down and mapped out on the board, kind of showed how we both all compared with each other. And that self-awareness is really important. And then we kind of figure out, for example, we could see our blind spots as well. Like, wow, it's interesting on the Belbin, we don't have any completer finishers in this team. So how are we going to get through this course? Because you need a good completer finisher. We were all like leaders and shapers.
Competing for the one role.
Yes. So I think that that's the first thing, is learning about yourself, and you can do it different ways. The other thing is 360-degree feedback.
Okay.
So there's again something called the leadership circle profile that I did. And this is where you've actually had a bit of a job and you ask people for feedback on you, because sometimes other people can see things in you that you can't see yourself.
Definitely. It's quite humbling. It can hurt, but it's good.
Yeah. Even your strengths, though. Sometimes you can't see your own strengths, because something that might come naturally to you, you may think that everyone's good at it. Yeah. But actually, not everyone is good at it. So sometimes you need other people to tell you what your gifts are, so that you can lean into those gifts.
That's it. You don't know your own blind spots.
No, you don't.
Yeah. It's kind of like people think they know themselves, but like, for example, I don't know if I really snore. Maybe you need a partner to tell you if you snore.
I'm snoring. You're waking me up. Yeah. And I love what you mentioned about the team and doing an assessment with your team, because in work, I'm sure you've worked with many teams and you've coached many teams, but that spills out into the culture. Mm-hmm. And I would love you to touch on that, like how good leadership impacts culture and then how bad leadership impacts culture.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see. When I think about teams, there are certain rules. I have certain mantras that I used to give my team. We used to put their mantras up on the wall in addition to the corporate values. Because, corporate values are oftentimes these kind of, we're going to have integrity and, treat our customers well and stuff like that. Authentic, whatever. So companies have their values, but we want to have them within our team. So one of the first values that we came up with is assume positive intent.
Okay.
That's good.
It's a really big one as a team, because most people are trying to do, I do assume the best of people. You're starting off here with me, not here. You're starting here, and I give you my trust.
Yes.
And I assume the best of you. And I always find that if you do that, people will rise up to your expectation.
Yes.
If you assume the worst of people, then you're asking for some.
And it's not nice for the person working.
No. So assume the best. And so sometimes we hurt each other's feelings in the team, or we step on each other's toes. But if you assume the positive intent and you just have that discussion, then that solves 90% of the issues. And then the second thing is about, again, strengths-based leadership. I always let people decide what they're good at, and I let them do that. And I figure we're going to be imperfect as individuals, but we'll be perfect as a team. Because I figure out who is that completer finisher.
Yes. Yeah.
Who's the door opener?
Who's the door opener?
Let that door opener. They're really good at opening doors, but maybe they're not good at closing deals.
Yes.
Or maybe we have someone who's a really good
visionary or.
Yeah, just figure out. So there's operations people who love looking at the metrics and making sure that we're make sure that people are doing what they're good at, even within the same role. So for example, you're a podcast host. You might be really good at doing the questions, but maybe you're not good at editing. So you need to find somebody else.
I learned that last time. Yeah. I think that's so helpful. And I'd love to know when it comes to vision and leading, and you're leading a team or an organization, how do you bring everyone else with you?
Yes.
So I think when you're a visionary and you start something, like you have the end in mind, then you forget that people on the team might not quite see it like you. In your experience, how have you brought people along with you?
Storytelling and vision. So I like to start off with once upon a time. Honestly, people, if you can bring someone on a story and a journey, and you can see, where you're trying to get to, but you've got to tell the story. And that helps to bring people along with you. The other thing is, when I mentioned earlier about seeing the field, this is something. Have you ever seen a movie called Legends of Bagger Vance?
Nope.
Yeah. It's with Will Smith.
Okay. I know Will Smith, but not the film.
Matt Damon. Yeah.
Okay.
So Will Smith and Matt Damon. And there was a moment where Matt Damon was off of his game, and Will Smith was the coach. And Will Smith told him to step back and look at the field as a golfer. And in that moment, he's like, I see the field. He's like, no, you're not looking at the field. You're not seeing what I'm seeing. And the thing is, again, you have to step back, look at the big picture, and make sure that you're seeing all of the, how's the wind, how are the birds flying in the trees and the wind and the sun? Is it impacting the grass? And just seeing the big picture. So I think that's the first thing you need to do as a leader is step back, see the big picture, describe what you see so that your team can see it. And then again, tell the story, take them on that journey so that they come with you.
Yes.
Yeah. And I guess that bleeds into like having a healthy and good culture. And I love this quote. It's Peter Drucker. He talks about culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
Brilliant quote. And it's true because, if your team are not on the same, if they're not on the same board about where you're going, the direction you're going and how you're going to get there, then the strategy will fail. And I'm sure you've seen that
totally.
in different environments. And to end this segment on leadership, for the young person listening, who is either at uni or in their first job, how can they grow in their leadership despite maybe not having the title or authority yet? Like, how can they individually show up and lead well?
Part of it's confidence. Now, I see two types of leaders. I see leaders who are operating from a place of strength and confidence, where they're leaning into their own power. From a quiet confidence standpoint, I see other leaders who are driven by fear or insecurity. And we can all see that. They can't really see it in themselves, but you have to ask yourself that question. What's driving my behavior right now? Am I being driven by insecurity? Because that actually drives really bad behaviors, and people can see it. So I think the number one thing is you have to work on confidence. Now, how do you build confidence? I have a tip for you here. The best way to build confidence is to put yourself in uncomfortable situations And if you don't die, you get stronger.
Okay.
And you gain more and more confidence.
Okay.
So for me, that was about traveling, going to different countries, sitting, you're always insecure. When you walk into a room at a networking event, we're always insecure, aren't we?
Yeah.
So it's about, okay, let me just do this. And the more you do it, the more you put yourself in those uncomfortable situations, the stronger, the more confident you become, and people will follow you. But again, check in with yourself. If you ever feel negative emotions that are driving your behavior, make sure that you quash those and say, I'm not going to let this own me.
Yeah. I love how you talked about the fear in leadership and how often when you're leading, you might not know it, but people around you can see the fear. And something you talk about a lot and you give talks about it is courageous leadership. How, can you break that down a bit? How do you not let fear lead you, but how do you lead courageously?
Well, I think if you have strong core, strong values, then being courageous is about standing up for those core values, right? So you're asked to do something. This has happened to me a couple of times in my career where I was asked to do something that I knew was wrong, and unfortunately, we're all put in that situation time and time again. And I've stood up sometimes I stand up and fight for my team, and the team really appreciates it. So courageous leadership is about doing the right thing for your team and in accordance with your values. And that may mean that you're going to upset somebody, maybe your boss, but again, make sure so courageous leadership is about doing the right thing. I look for it all the time in some of our political leaders. It's sad to me that I see a lot of our politicians who don't have the courage to stand up for their convictions. There are very few. So one of the things I'm looking to do is make a list of who's naughty and nice and just highlight, do what you're doing and highlight courageous leaders whenever you can find them because they're so rare.
We can put that link in our bio. But it seems to me that leadership initially starts with the individual, them having a clear set of values. So it's almost once you've got your own personal leadership, then there's a natural flow from that to others.
I'm giving you the fundamental. There are so many leadership courses you can take about how to be a good manager. You can have your regular one-on-ones with your employees. You can set the goals. You can measure their performance and you can give them their annual review. These are all tactics.
Yeah.
But the fundamental is inside out. The fundamental is that, like I said, authenticity, values, emotional intelligence, judgment. If you get those three things, you are going to rock it. You're going to surpass the best leaders out there.
How do we use AI alongside leadership? Because that's quite a big question, but I mean, it's only going to get more prevalent in jobs and careers. How, especially for Gen Zs, when we're leading now or in the future, how do we coexist alongside AI without looking down on it and being worried about AI?
Well, I think that the biggest challenge that you're going to have as young people is that the jobs that are kind of going away are those jobs that are very repetitive. So I'm concerned about the people who are research oriented, like a lawyer, where you spend maybe your first 5 years of your career as a lawyer is spent researching and stuff. That kind of stuff is going to be gone. So what I would advise people is the job, what AI can't do is the judgment, and they can't do the emotional intelligence. So if you lean into, again, those two bits, again, the emotional intelligence, because that's something that the AI, the bots are never going to be able to do as well as we can do. And I think that you can even see a lot of the venture capitalists are leaning into things like in-person events, networking things, because people are going to crave that. We all have I have a relationship with my AI agents. I talk to them, I ask them questions, and we have conversations, but I still crave that person to person. So I would say lean into anything that's people oriented, building relationships, your relationship skills. That's where you're going to differentiate yourself from the AI. And again, the judgment, because AI might be able to give you all the facts, but can it make a decision? That's where we again come into play.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know whether you have any thoughts or questions on AI and tech.
AI and tech. So I know what one area which you specialize in. It's the, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the digital self identifier, or in the
digital ID.
Yeah, the digital ID, and in particular, it's in that merchant payment ecosystem. So it's not exactly AI, but it's an area that's developing and growing. And I suppose for Gen Z who want to take a lead or want to get involved, could you perhaps tell us a bit about it and how they can?
Well, one of the reasons I became interested in digital identity is because I love social commerce.
Okay.
So social commerce is where you're actually on any Facebook or Instagram or TikTok and you're selling something, right? And one of the challenges with that is with AI becoming so sophisticated, they can fake, you can put fake profiles, fake people, fake this, that, and the other. So digital identity lets you know who you're dealing with. So in order for us to be successful in the era of marketplaces and social commerce and being able to be an influencer or a content creator, you've also got to have that a digital wallet and a digital identity so that we know who we're dealing with. Because if I'm going to spend, maybe dating or shopping, whatever, if I'm going to be on Instagram and I'm going to go on a date with somebody, I want to know it's a real person.
Yeah, real, not a robot.
Yeah. So I want digital identity to screen them, see how old they are, stuff like that. And if I'm buying something, I want to know that it's a reputable business. So that's why I'm interested in digital identity. Because if we're moving into the metaverse, and we're going online, we're already online. We're, doing everything these days through social media and in the metaverse, et cetera. We need to know, because I used to work at Facebook, by the way. And I remember back in the Cambridge Analytica days, we had to take down millions of fake profiles.
Sure.
And you've got all these bots that amplify it. So it's a dangerous world out there.
Before we end this segment, what's one skill that you would tell someone listening to this to invest in getting more knowledge around AI and how you use that?
Well, I like having conversations with AI, and I think the most important thing is I have multiple. I'm sure you guys do too. I have 4 different bots. So I go to Perplexity first to do my research, because it's really good with the citations and everything. It's like the facts. And then I say, I want to take that and I want to make it more of a story. Then I might go to Claude, because I've got projects in Claude. And so I use that and I asked, it knows me, Claude, in my different projects. I have different personas. And in each project, I actually say, here, I'm a podcast producer, and here I'm a coach, and here I'm
different hats.
Yeah, what are your different hats? Let it know who you are. So I think that the great thing is being able to experiment with the different ones and being able to know what the strengths are. Again, just like my team members, each of my my AI agents have their own strengths and weaknesses.
And how would you say the leadership skills, would you say leadership, what's required of a leader has changed now that we're kind of entering this era of bots and digital ID?
Yes and no. I mean, I think the better answer for me is to say no, it hasn't changed. Because the fundamentals don't change. If we're looking, who do you want to follow? You want to follow someone who is honest, has integrity, has authenticity, has core values. That doesn't change. So the main thing is we've got to make sure that we continue to communicate with each other. Don't outsource it to AI. So we have to be careful about that. It's just about keeping that human element and hopefully be nice to your AI. We have to. Nice. I'm always
Don't be mean to ChatGPT.
Gotta keep being polite.
Be polite. Be nice.
Yeah, absolutely. They maybe are over.
Please chat. No, that's brilliant. That is so. Yeah, that's really helpful and so interesting. So thank you for all your thoughts on AI leadership and telling us how you started and the journey that you've been on. But to close up this interview, what would be your one piece of advice that you would give someone in their 20s, in their career? It could even be like personal development, leadership, like the overarching message, what would that be?
Lifelong learning.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Just never, ever, ever stop learning, because the minute you do, it's all over. I do think we need to really rethink education. The idea, things are moving faster today than they've ever moved. And when I think about a 4-year university degree, by the time you're at year 4, all the stuff you learn in year 1 may be obsolete.
Yeah.
So I think when you think about your education, think about it for the next 50 years.
Okay.
Because you're going to be learning throughout your whole life. And those people who have curiosity are going to be the winners.
That's good.
Don't think you've got it. We used to say in my day, in your 20s, you learn, in your 30s, you earn, that kind of thing. Like, no, these days it's you learn forever, because it's always going to be changing.
Oh, that is so good. And I would definitely, when I get home, I'm going to rewatch this and write my own notes, because everything you said was so helpful. So thank you, Laura, so much for joining us this morning. And for those listening, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Big Smoke Chronicles. And we're looking forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in to the Big Smoke Chronicle podcast. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode. And if you enjoy the podcast and would like to support, remember to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.